This is Ether Learning Lab. My name is Erin. First, investigative report. This deep dive is for the Patreon community. So the entire report will be posted on the Ether Learning Lab Patreon, where all tiers will have access to it. I'm also posting a portion on YouTube. So welcome people on YouTube as well. There is a lot coming. We know this, we can feel this. It is a ebb and flow. These are massive cycles. And these investigative reports are going to be prophetic potentials, strong potentials, decodes that I am feeling and seeing in the charts using the astrology body of knowledge bridged with the astronomy. So opening to the true sky freedom and our liberated orientation as we ground through the root and our root of roots, the earth star, some will call it, place as well. So to really feel this liberty, the alchemy there is so key. And yeah, these will be historical and prophetic and just cyclical in nature. It's been super fun to get started with this first one. This first one, I am feeling called. This will be part one to dive into the financial rebirth that is coming. And as I dove into the charts, it's feeling so supportive. It's this full pulling apart of our current exploitive central banking structure that is this inflated Ponzi scheme, and dismantling, pulling apart slowly at the seams, which affects every facet, every institution. It is the centrifugal top of the pyramid and the underlying false foundation. So that false foundation is going to come up in these years that are blooming here. And everything, all the manipulation, all the energy that is out of divine law and just isn't actually natural at all, is not love, is going to be seen. And we are simultaneously birthing the next paradigm, right? And so it's truly this rebirth. And I'm watching in the charts how the rebirth is happening prior to and during the collapse. So it's so supportive, and we will be moving through fear and that root of roots, purifying the root where the life force has been fully hijacked of the masculine and feminine, and it's not grounded into this beautiful earth. So we will be alchemizing that through these cycles, shifting huge fear around this paradigm. As we do ground into this beautiful planet and the true natural cycles, we will feel this unfoldment with trust and trust in safety, trust in survival, and not this false notion of control that's very linked to this financial monetary exchange structure that completely hijacks the human vessel upon birth, which I'll talk about as we decode the charts. So yeah, it's amazing. It's totally a birth and it's on the way. And it's not happening as quickly as some, what I feel is ungrounded decodes are, where they are still very linear and, um, yeah, just not taking that space to really anchor and feel and process through the root and the sacral and transcend the false lunar cycles and the false Saturnian reversal energies that are linked to what is inverted within, and then actually correcting the flow and the movement and the clock inside as we orient to the clock on the outside in the celestial unfolding. So yeah, let's dive into the charts and feel into this financial rebirth. And it's these points of contraction and expansion. And it's so exciting to watch how they affect each other and build on each other. And we are totally entering this massive revelation and evolution and enlightenment cycle. And I've really seen it so much as I'm decoding this first investigative report, more than I've ever actually seen it in the charts. So, yeah. All right. Let's decode, let's analyze. And then we have September 20th, 2024. And this is a kite. So, in the astrogeometry, with Neptune and Pluto still in the mix, still interacting both of these years. It's really starting to align right now as I'm filming this in end of April 2024, but it's going to keep aligning where Neptune and Pluto at that Cap Sag, but in Capricorn, but goes back in a retrograde cycle as well and still transitioning that void. And Capricorn power, it's going to collapse the false paradigms and Pluto is going to birth the new ones. It's this volcanic energy that is creating the true land. And we are being fully pulled out of this false water maritime law energy. And so if you have if you're aware of some of this maritime law that actually enslaves everyone, every physical human upon birth, and this whole cycle here, this first part that I am decoding, it's dismantling that enslavement based on this banking system where the bank is where the water currency meets the land. And when you are birthed and you are a vessel at sea at maritime law, you are birthed into a station, a docking, a mooring, and you're sitting there on the water with access to the land, but you're not actually on the land. And so all of this is such spelling, such manipulation in our language that we have not had the consciousness to decode. So if you have not gone down rabbit holes of researching the central banking structure and the wording and the language and how metaphors are so powerful for actually imprinting and driving the life force energy, it's that conceptual energetic that reaches a physical space with a metaphor. And if there are multiple metaphors, entendres, like 5 metaphors can be compounded into one space often. And so, okay. So anyway, with the central banking structure, you are a vessel that's birthed. And upon birth, you receive your birth certificate now. And it's just this massive manipulation to declare you a corporation. And so that's why your name is capitalized and on your birth certificate. And you become dead as soon as you're birthed. You become a corpse. You are a corporation now. And it's also in full caps on your social security card. So you now then also become a social security and you can be traded on this banking market as a security and as this vessel that is fully controlled, dead, not aware enough to be alive, and be traded depending on what you secure in your life. And so not only are human vessels, we are traded on this marketplace, but then we're also a slave to it as well. And so all of this just deep control, spelling, reversal, hijacking of the life force, I feel in both the masculine and feminine energy at the root. So money is very connected to Venus and Mars. And just the masculine, feminine within and expressed without. It's just this full siphoning, hijacking, and plucking upon birth to put in this false system and be just totally a slave to it. And the survival masculine, feminine root is within the system. So there's so much more to that. And there's so much with the central banking structure and the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations. And this has to do with war and human trafficking and massive imprinting through the human trafficking networks that has to do with the satanic sexuality. And all of these are the way the human life force, creation energy, kundalini, dragon within are just fully controlled and siphoned, right? So this is a slow dismantling and pulling that whole thing apart, that whole fake system. That maritime law bullshit is not actually divine law at all. And all the banks, all the treasuries, all the central banks for each country, depending on what that country is involved in. And even bringing the Swiss banks into this and Switzerland, where the Knights Templar could have become the Freemasons, the underground bankers that are functioning that were for a long time, for many hundreds of years, 700, 800 years this goes back. And that's why Switzerland is not involved in any of the wars, because they're funding everything. And okay. So that is a bit of a monologue and inspiration to go through some deep dives about changing the awareness even more. And I'm going to do more research. I can feel more in this coming year or two as this gets dismantled, because it's so vital for us to become aware of this in order to actually support this deconstruction that's coming in the cycles, and to choose anchoring your life force, protecting you, making sure you have boundaries with this fake system, and stabilizing, grounding into this new birthing one. And how can we trust, but how can the illusions will also get catalyzed? So where is there tension, trying to control something based on fear, trying to use the old ways of doing and thinking is just going to feel more uncomfortable and really create tension. So, but at the same time, to listen to your intuition and that higher trust can feel really uncomfortable too. So often the guidance and the highest alignment and your true compass, your soul's true north, when you get closer to the magnetic north during some of these cycles, it will feel uncomfortable to the old system, the old programming. So sorting out what is the dream uncomfortable and what is this weird dismantling muck uncomfortable. Yes. Dream uncomfortable, muck uncomfortable. Notice that difference here. So yeah, we are moving towards this energy. All right. And then the next part. So that September 20th is an expansion. There are those uncomfortable contractions, but it is this expansion into that Neptunian pinnacle. And it's supporting as this aligns. So that kite is like, okay, what feels like the dream uncomfortable? Move towards that. Then on July 15th, so I am moving ahead pretty significantly, where there will be eclipse seasons in the spring of uh 2025. Yeah. And in April of 2025, there's kind of this contraction pressure of a Saturn Uranus sextile, and there's other things going on, but I felt the next big astrogeometry alignments to look at that were really powerful are happening between July 13th of 2025 and July 18th. So I'm looking right at this July 15th window when Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Pisces. Now, this feels like some some things might hit the physical collectively around this conjunction. And it is so supportive with Neptune there. And we had a lot of expansion we've already been moving through to make sure that as this dismantling and stretching and pulling apart at the seams of this false Ponzi scheme, manipulative central banking, super messed up control structure, is deconstructing. When more of that happens, we will be supported based on our intuition. So, for instance, I feel things hitting the physical slowly and into 2025, but this feels like some of these alignments feel so significant and based on the previous ones that it will drip into this density. It could be things like the IRS actually forgiving back taxes, or even it feels beyond that though, where debt is forgiven, student loans are fully forgiven at this point. It's recorrecting the Saturnian reversals. So from debt back to the positive, and that will play out in our individual experience and then collective experience. It can also be things like what happened with GameStop and the stock market, and it can have it can show the fragility of that and how hedge funds are very manipulative and can just send information to media outlets and say this, do this, and then that spikes a certain security that they invested in or whatever the strategy is. I don't, I'm not a financial advisor at all. I'm looking at the astrology. And but yeah, really sorting out how this can work. This could show up in mortgages, in those securities, and how maybe the fixed rates or the rates will drop and become fixed for everyone in a way that's unprecedented that we've never seen. It can be so it's very supportive, but it also will probably show the fragility of these huge hedge funds and will affect the banks in a very negative way as they're dismantled. However, if you're investing in what your intuition is guiding you to do, making sure you have a home and fresh water, that is key. Water access is really important. And food to eat. So, growing your own food, even as these roll out. And I still feel it's years out. I'm really connecting to the earth and observing collectively and observing these cycles. It's going to unfold much more slowly than a lot of I see being communicated in the truther groups and stuff, where those portals, people have very open channels, but they're not actually grounded into the true cycles. And so it's very ungrounded prophetic decoding, I feel. And I'm still sorting it out every day as well, every moment. But this conjunction catalyzes something in the physical. So maybe the housing market will go up, but rates will go down for the interest rates. Actually, I feel something totally different with the entire concept of a mortgage shifting, and it might be the beginning of that and how it's even structured. All of this is going to just show up so differently, kind of the way 2020 showed up, that we've never seen anything quite like what happened. And there are so many manipulative control energies that had a hand in 2020, and they will have a hand in what's going on right now, but there's more benevolent energy here now, and it's really being anchored. And as these things get sorted out, it will be these incremental phases that are unprecedented and weird, but it will be all good. And I don't even have the home or the water or the garden figured out yet, but I know it's coming and I know I will be guided. So listen to those things and you will be where you're meant to be as this collapses. And one key feeling that I sense is very vital is if all of your investments, savings, assets, if all of that collapsed, but you had these physical experiences. So for some reason, it's not including home and property. There's something that's going to happen with mortgages, I feel, because it's so freaking inflated, and what houses cost is just not what it actually costs. And um yeah, I mean, it's just propped up on so much fluff. But so it's interesting. I'm feeling intuitively right now that the home thing, even if you're still paying your mortgage to the bank, and acquiring your equity, but you're still in debt to the bank. Oh, yeah. And it's these debt forgiveness things. I'm really feeling that come through because divine law doesn't exist in debt. Like that entire concept of taking out a credit card is just so ridiculous. And yes, it's helped the economy, but the economy is going to turn into an ecology, I feel. It's going to be this existential love value system, this beautiful ecology. It'll be trade again in ways we've never seen. It will be these physical assets, as I was saying. So if you have physical safety, food, water, shelter, love, family, friends, even if, and I tend to be very much in solitude these days for many reasons. But that might be one friend or one partner or just a small family or those kinds of things too. It doesn't need to be a huge community. If you have those needs met and you're connected to the earth, and if everything disappeared in this false structure, would you be happy? So if the whole bank account emptied and all the savings, all the investments, whatever those funds are and plans are, that if you have a 401k or something like that, if all of that just vanished, would you be happy? And so that's what this is dismantling. Wow. The doorbell rang right as I was talking about how if the entire concept of a bank account, of savings, of investments, and just the monetary central banking shit show of control disappeared, would you be happy where you are and what you are doing? And the doorbell rang. Oh, so key. I'm not saying that it will disappear. I feel this is going to unfold in a very unprecedented quantum etheric potential manner. And we will see how it will all get sorted to a true value system and a rebirthing into what that even means and exchange, what that looks like in a currency exchange of love. And so, yeah, follow your guidance and heart and intuition and the gut feeling that could be uncomfortable for this programming around money, but it feels uncomfortable, scary in a good way of your dreams. That's the one to follow. I am not a financial advisor. Not at all. This is not financial advice, but simply a share in how the potential cycles will hit the density and a fascination with how these celestial gears are shifting and moving and affecting this density and physical experience and the potentials in the timelines of how it will play out. But we shall see. And each of us anchoring our protected heart field from these manipulative, controlling structures that just fully harness and utilize the life force energy within each individual human, moving through that individually and being this epic beacon that is anchoring and ascending simultaneously is how we contribute to dissolving all the BS fear based structures. And thank you for being part of that epic neutralization process. That is not easy at all, but we are here and let's witness it unfold as we are guided right here, and all will be well.